So my name is Jorgen. I'm from InPress Systems in Sweden, and I'd like to present a few of our tools for WebNative. We have been around for quite a few years. We started out in '96 as the authorized reseller for Xinet in Sweden, and we were a very early adopter of web-based solutions. So I claim to be the first one selling WebNative. I know there are a couple of other resellers claiming the same, but at least it was in '97. 2000 at Drupa, we introduced the first plugins or add-on products that we had. The Accelerator Web to Print, and we had Interact for WebNative. And then following years, we've been releasing new versions, new products. We also do quite a bit with custom solutions for many different users around the world. So if you have any questions during the presentation, I'm not sure what the procedure here is, Jill.
Go ahead and chat your question directly to me, and if it's pertinent to the immediate thing we're covering, I will mention it to everybody so that Jorgen can answer the question, or we'll hold questions till the end, whichever seems appropriate.
Okay. So we have a number of tools. The first one is called InAlias. It's a tool that allows you to add on user registration and some user management to the Xinet suite. We have another plugin called Impressive. Impressive is a web-native site branding tool for web-native only. It does not work with Portal. Interact, which is a selection or a collection of plugins for different purposes. OnRoute, which is a workflow and automation software that runs schedules and hot folders. We have Accelerator, which is a web to print and asset ordering tool. And we have something called iPick, which is a free InPress portal integration kit, which is used to connect our plugins to your portal site, or actually to simplify collecting it. This presentation today will focus mainly on 3 of the plugins: InAlias, Interact, and OnRoute. And we will see mostly from the user's perspective. We will not be looking too hard into admin GUIs and so forth. So let's go ahead and take a look at InAlias. So InAlias is designed to simplify the administration of users, basically by letting users register themselves. It can also expire users. It has some password retrieval options, and this together makes it compliant with some of the security requirements that are frequently used with bigger corporations, like password enforcing rules and expiry and resetting passwords and so forth. The user registration process is set up in the way where we allow the users to register themselves. We can test the names given, the passwords, and the emails. And we can add administration approval and user confirmation by emails. The users are created and all the permissions are assigned automatically. And you basically use a form like the one on this little screenshot to register your users. The management that we can expire users after a certain time. We have some features for handling lost password requests. It's possible to register users for different roles using different types of template accounts. And what you see here is a screenshot showing an email that goes out when the user account has been expired, and you need to click to extend your account. With InAlias, it's possible to host multiple setups, which means that each portal site can have its own InAlias configuration. Look and feel can be customized. So it could be like the default one to the left, and then we can have heavily customized sites like the one on the right. So let's take a look at how this actually works in practice. We'll go to browser and connect to my demo server. And this is my demo server. It's a normal Portal 4 site. It's an exhibit, fresh from the installation and configuration. The only thing I've done with this site is that I have run IPIC and installed IPIC on the same machine. IPIC stands for the InPress Portal Integration Kit. By doing that and configuring the site, connecting it to an InAlias config, I also automatically get these little links. Register new account or lost password retrieve. So when I want to register a new account, I just click this link. It opens up the registration process in the new window. I can just give it a name I want to use. That's demo 1, my full name. I'm using demo as my email address and add a password 123. And here I have a rule saying I cannot use passwords that are shorter than 8 characters, at least 3 special characters. So I can just add, let's say, demo 1, 2, 3, 4. Since I turned on password retrieval, I can also have a security question. You can add as many as you want. This one is, what is your mother's maiden name, which happens to be a Swedish name, Karlsson. And I just hit continue. So this is a request for an account, and in this specific case, what we've done is that we have set up the registration process into 2 steps, basically. First, there will be an email going to myself. Or actually, not. Don't get any emails. Let's try this again. So I'm not sure what happened there. It seemed like the email was delayed. So this is actually the first one. So I get an email address saying confirm your account request, which means that I need to click here to confirm the request. Do that, and it has been sent. Now, next step is going to be that the email goes to the admin. Take a little while. Seems like the email server is very slow. Okay, so here's the email that is sent to the admin after my confirmation as a user. So I will click here to approve this user account. So it's now approved, which means that I should be able to log in as a user demo 1 on the site. So let's see that. Demo 1, demo 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm logged in, and so this means my process here was that I made my registration. The registration went to me as a user for confirmation by my email, and then I had to click that. An email goes to the admin, which then has to approve my account. I'm logged in, and while I'm here, let's just quickly log out and show you another thing, another feature we have. when we connect a portal account, a portal site to InAlias, we can also restrict users to a certain site, which means I happen to know that on the server itself there is an account with this name, but this person has not registered to InAlias, which means it doesn't have access to the site. Even though it's an actual user, it doesn't have the ability to log in. Let's log in again as my normal user, demo 1. So some additional benefits of connecting the site to InAlias is that we can also create auto login sites, which means that we have a link that can automatically log someone in. We can control the access, like I just showed you, by basically saying that anyone that logs into this site has to be in the InAlias database for that site. It's possible to add on more information, so we can actually collect more info, like phone numbers and so forth, from the user when he registers. We can use InAlias as some simplified sub-administration. It's also possible to do email broadcasts to all the users that are registered in the site, and much more. So summary, InAlias, we let users register themselves. We can create accounts automatically using what we call the template accounts, expire users, allow password retrievals, and we can share in the same InAlias, have a multiple setups for different types of users or different types of site requirements. So that's all I was going to show you from InAlias at this point. If you have any questions about InAlias, you can wait it to the end, or you can just send them off to GL right now. If not, I'll just move on to Interact. So Interact is what we call the WebNative Interaction Kit. It's a set of many plugins for collaboration, asset distribution, and workflow. It's customizable, so you can change the look and feel of the plugins. You can change the look and feel of all the notifications that are being sent. And you can change a lot of the workflows per user or per group. Some of the common features that all the plugins can do, that we can use approval step, which means that an order that's being placed has to go through an admin step before being executed. We can read and write to the vendor database, so we can read information on files that can be included in emails and so forth, and we can write back when we've done something in a workflow. We can add our custom fields, which means that we can collect a lot of information when you're processing a specific order in one of the plugins. It's possible to do conversions. So if we, for example, collect files, we can also convert them on the fly. It's possible to collect linked assets. So if you place an InDesign file in your basket, we can also grab all the linked files. We notify, we write reports. So for the collaboration plugins, a couple of examples would be Save Basket. We have a plugin that saves a basket to another user or users and sends notifications. Asset Review. We have a plugin where you can send a basket of assets to someone that doesn't have a login. It will automatically create a temporary login and let the user access those files or assets through a link in an email. And within the asset review, you can actually use standard plugins and triggers and actions on those assets. And the access to the asset review will be expiring after a certain time. So what I'm going to do is shift over to the portal site again, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples. So let's go into images 1, and then just pick a couple of images down here somewhere. Then we'll go to the basket. What you see here in the basket is a number of Interact plugins. Some of them are called Interact something. Some of them are called more specific names like Share Basket. That's because we are using iPick here, and we renamed that plugin within our Interact administration tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share basket, which means it loads the basket. It shows me that this is a share basket tool. It has 3 files. If I want to look at the files, I just click here and I can see the files that I have in my basket. And then, depending on what plugin I'm using, of course, the options will be different. But for this specific share basket plugin, I can add users. And the way this particular demo is set up is that I can add any user from my group, my primary group. So I'm going to pick myself. Finds actually the email address that I have when I registered, and I'm going to add another one. So I have 2 users added, and I'm going to save a basket. I saved basket, and I will send an email message. Please use these images for something. Now we can also expire shared baskets, which means that the system will delete those baskets after a certain time. I'll pick 1 day, and then share the basket. So the basket has been shared. And this particular plugin is actually done in a way that it allows you to clean up your basket when you're done. So it's already finished and removed everything from my basket. So what I can do now is go to the email again, and hopefully we'll have some new emails coming in. It's very slow. Doesn't look like it sends email very quickly. So let's go back to the site again. And what I'm going to do is open up Administer Basket. And I'm going to select the one that I just saved, my saved basket, and I will just add it into my current basket. The email notification looks like this. So this is actually the email that was sent to a certain user. It will expire in 24 hours. It has a basket name, and this is a message, and these are the files. So these are my I have three files in my basket. Let's go to something else that we file under the collaboration. So let's see, send an asset review. So this will create a temporary account and send me a link where I can log into that account without having to know anything about the system or having to have a predefined user account. So let's see. It's possible to have an access code. Although the link will take me directly in, I can also add in additional security by adding an access code. So if I do that and send that to InPress.se, this is another message. We can also expire this asset review, and depending on my setup, I can choose a number of hours. Just in this case, we just decided to select from 1 day to 2 days and 1 week. So let's take 2 days, which means that the user who gets this email can use his link for 2 days from now. So I'm going to send that asset reviewer. It's created, and now we have to wait for the email to come in. This is my link to get to the asset reviewer. An asset review has been created for you. It's valid for 48 hours. This is the measures that I typed in. All these notifications can be customized. There are HTML emails. You can add your own CSS in, or you can completely customize them. They're built on templating style, which means that you can basically do your own personal look and feel on these emails. So the link, since I added a password for security, that is sent in a second email. So just click here, access. It will ask me for the password, and then I just click the login button. It shows me the message again, and then an open button. Whoops. That's closed down. So I probably had it open beforehand. So this is the way the asset review looks like. We have a window where on the left there are any plugins that you applied when you made your setup for the asset reviewer. To the right you have your assets. Clicking on an asset will take you to the normal MView page, which means that you can get to metadata. And again, that's all dependent on how I set up my asset reviewer, and that can be unique for each customer, user, or account. So in this case, I can just make a couple of notes here. Good. Approval, yes. And as an alternative to using the MView, which of course then, if you set things up the way you want, if you needed to, you can definitely use things like triggers and actions here. So the asset reviewer will send the files at the location that they are. It will not make copies. So if it's the same assets that you have in your normal workflow, which means that you can use triggers and actions to have things move around and so forth. But you can also use plugins. So in this case, I'm using a plugin called Interact Mail Comment. And this Interact Mail Comment plugin, which I, in this case, renamed to Respond, has the ability to collect information per asset in my basket. So, blah. I'm just typing some stuff in here. And then it can have a message, and it can also include keywords on those assets when I send the mail. So in this case, it's been sent up to send back to my demo user, demo at InPress account. But that's also something you do when you set this asset reviewer up for the user. I used a plugin from within the temporary account to mail back the information. And again, I guess we have to wait a little bit for the email to turn up here. Has there been any questions submitted while we're waiting, Jill?
There's been one regarding users. We're wondering if new users are stored in the local venture database, and is Active Directory user creation supported?
No, we don't. InAlias is a solution for people who don't run Active Directory. All the users are basically saved into the Xinet user database.
Okay, and that's in the local venture database or the Xinet database?
Well, that's the same thing.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
database,
trying to.
Yeah. So there are local users for Xinet only. We don't update any Active Directory. So we got the response from the asset review using the mail comment plugin. The mail we send from the mail comment plugin has some basic information plus thumbnail for each file. The comment from the mail comment plugin plus those two fields that we also had checked in the checkboxes, and those could be any fields in the venture database. So that's returned from the asset review. Okay. Next thing on the list is to look at what we do for not for collaboration. We just look at that. Let me fast forward here. Distribution. So the main plugin for doing a distribution is called Asset Link. Asset Link will create a zip file of all the baskets, put that in a temporary location, then send a link to download. And just like the asset review, we have the ability to have a security password on that link, and the link will time out. Both the asset link and the asset review, by the way, can also report back to the admin that someone opened the link or downloaded the file. And that can be done every time or just the first time it's being done. We can send files to FTP, which means that we can create a zipped archive and send it to an FTP destination, and together with that, a note on an email. So let's go back to here again. So before when I registered, I actually had a setup in InAlias to say that this account would expire. It was actually 20 days, but I'm running the server in a mode where we can actually simulate days as minutes. So we're actually almost running out of time for this user. So I'm just going to click here to extend the user account. But before I do that, I will actually log out and then click. And then I have to give the old password, 1, 2, 3, 4. And update, which means I'm now extended my account for another 20 days, which would be 20 minutes in this demo time space. So let's go back here again, demo 1. So I'm logged back in, and I'm going to add something to my basket. I'm going to look at this InDesign document. This document has just a few pages, but you can see there are 4 images here, a number of images here, and then 1 image on the front. So I'm going to add this to my basket, and then open up the basket again. And just going to remove these 3 images. So now I only have 1 image, 1 document in my basket. I'm going to open up the files, send files for pickup, which is actually the asset link plugin that has been renamed. And now when I open it up, it doesn't have 1 file, it has 14 files. And that's because this particular plugin has been set up to also load linked documents. I'll click here. I can see that I have a lot of images. They're also in the basket. I'll give it an access code again, and just to keep it simple, I'll just use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Choose maxzip. Send the email to demo@InPress, and type in a message. In this case, I could choose to do other types of files. So let's say that I want to convert all the images into thumbnails. And then I'm going to do a naming on the zip file, and I will name it myzip. And then send the mail link. It's been sent. And again, I assume we have to wait a little bit for the email to come back. So before we do that, let's go back again to some of these images in here. Let's see if we can open up linked files. So this is a linked file, and we can actually see on the keywords that this file was ordered on September 12 by Demo1, and it's been ordered once at all. And this is because we, in the send asset link plugin, decided to set up InTeract to write back information to the assets. So it has the ability to write back and tell things like who did the order, when is the last order, and it can keep counters. So next time someone orders this file, it will be increased to 2, and so forth. Let's see if we have the email yet. So we have a file pickup, a file descent, it has a link, and it has a password. So let's go to the link, enter password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I can see there's a myzip file, download. And here's my folder with all the files. I have the InDesign document, and I have some PNGs that are my thumbnails. So I can see that the thumbnails are, yeah, it's supposed to be up to 150 pixels wide or high, which they are. Let's go back to the keynote again. So that's all about asset delivery. A couple of examples of workflow. InTeract has the ability to batch move, batch copy, batch delete from the basket. We have also something called the project creator. The project creator is used to create new job folders. It uses predefined structures that you define, and it can apply keywords and so forth to the structure that it creates. So let's just log in back here again and go to browse. Actually skip over to the basket again, and we will look at the InTeract project creator. So the project creator is set up in a way where we have the customer IDs of all the customers that we work with in a database. And these customer in the database have their home directories defined. So what I can do here is I can choose, for example, Acme, and it will give me a number of job structures that are available for that client. There are some clients that I can have what we call the sub-brands. So inside each client folder, there will be subfolders for different brands. But I will use the Acme one, add production, and I will create a new job, 1209 401. This is a new job. So the project has been created. Let's see if we can actually find it. So let's go back to browse and search. And we will do a quick search on the actual job number. So it finds the file here. If we look at info on that folder, we can see there are a couple of metadata fields that are filled in, like the job number field, the job description. It says job status that is set, and there is a creation date on the job. And these are all set by the project creator when we create the structure. Let's go back to my images. And I will just put a couple of images into my basket. And then go to shopping basket again. And just remove that InDesign document. And then I'm going to use my InTeract Move Files plugin. I want to copy these files, and I want to put them in the jobs folder, the jobs volume into jobs, A-F, Acme jobs and my new folder name, my new job, and then in here I'm going to put into the images folder. Copy these files. The files are copied. Now, looking at the structure on disk, just going to connect to the desktop of that server, and we'll look at the jobs volume, AF, ECME, jobs, and this is the folder we created. And inside images, we should have these images that we just copied using the plugin.
We've also got a question for you.
Yes.
We're interested to know if the plugins can be scripted with triggers and actions.
Scripted with triggers and actions. You want to start the plugin from a trigger.
Like, can you automate it based on transactions? Yeah.
Well, we do change the values of database fields, so InTrack can trigger triggers and actions. But InTrack has to be triggered by the user. So when you have to open up the InTrack either from the basket, or if you put a button next to an image, for example, you can also have InTrack trigger on that specific run on that specific asset. But you cannot run an InTrack action from the Xinet actions.
If I could interject, obviously, there's two ways at communicating with assets typically within the software. One with triggers and actions and events as triggers, and then the other way is via a shopping basket. So typically, the way that we're working here is these are shopping basket plugins, and very difficult to try to trigger them with an action because the item has to be in your shopping basket. So that's really the only way to work with most of these tools, is to fill your basket full of the items that you want to have a particular tool utilized, and then you're direct pushing. And the nice thing about this is that it's not dependent on a database of any kind, although it can interact with a database. For those customers that did enable the database on that particular volume, you can still move assets, copy assets, and push assets across the system without any dependency on the database as well. So it's just different. It's a different mechanism. If you'll notice in the standard Xinet environment, they really haven't fleshed out what you could do with the shopping basket. So that's what really this tool does, utilizing this main way of getting stuff in the product.
I can just add that what you're seeing right now is the next version. It's version 5, which is very close to release. With version 5, there will be a new interface to interact with some of the Interact plugins. Not all of them, but some of them. The plugins where it makes sense at the starting, at least when we have this in. And the new way of doing that will be through web services, which means that you can actually, from another system, initiate something to happen with Interact. If you read the North Plains newsletter, there was a success story from Sweden with Husqvarna, which is a global company selling a lot of different tools worldwide, and they were talking about how they integrated their marketing site with Xinet, and the integration is actually Interact. It didn't really say that loud and clear, but that's what's actually doing that integration in the back end. So I'm going to go back to my keynote again, and just try to wrap up Interact. Summary, there's a lot of different plugins. We've seen a few of them. Basically doing collaboration, asset distribution, and workflow. It's all customizable. It's integrated with Venture. We do a lot of notification reporting, a lot more in the product. EnRoute. is a hot folder and scheduler. Basically what it does, it can either watch folders and files, or it can run venture queries. And the assets that OnRoute finds, it can route, so it can put them in different locations based on information in the file, like venture database information or parts of the file name and so forth. It can also convert files before it routes them. It can do some unzipping, reporting notification. You can write back to the venture database, just like Interact. And the way you use this is really for doing more or less specialized projects or workflows. And the best way of explaining really what it does is to just give a couple of examples. So one of them would be routing uploaded assets from the uploader. And the whole idea is that the user upload files, and some of the fields in the upload will be required. And then when OnRoute scans the incoming folder for these files, it will look at the database, it will route the files to the right direction. You can also apply some additional database information when you do that. And then, of course, send some notifications and so forth out. Another workflow example that's real life example, we have a customer gathering files for external pickup. So someone else needs to pick up files on a regular basis. And the way this is set up is that the user set a database value for new files, and they want these files to be made available. And one time daily, we will query and find those files. They can be spread out over all of the file system. The files we find are copied to a certain area for the pickup, and we also write a report, an XML-based file that the user, the other system connecting to the server, will read and then get those files. And as we're doing this, we also write back to the database, so we avoid getting the files in the next search. So those are two real-life examples of how people can use OnRoute. I'm just going to quickly show you an example here. So let's just get rid of some of the windows. So I'm going to open up an uploader. And when I made this uploader, it happened to be in Swedish, and I didn't really understand how I could change the language, but hopefully you will understand what I'm doing anyway. So I'm going to grab a couple of files, put them in here. Now for this uploader, I have made the field job number required. So I'm going to use the 2012-09-401 that I just used when I made a new job. Then I'm going to just another one, let's say 09-402. And then I will upload these files. And what happens now is they go into an upload area, an incoming bin, and it waits for the OnRoute daemon to find those files. And as soon as they find these files, they should be routed out to the correct job. So let's see what happened here. This is my incoming area. And here's my job section. Acme, sorry, jobs 401, incoming folder. So this is my first image, the 651. And the other one, I just happened to specify a job number that didn't exist. So instead of putting it in the right place, it will go to missing job. So the OnRoute daemon, we're looking at the incoming folder, and then as files come in and the database registers those files, it will route them to the right directory. That's a very simple demonstration of something that OnRoute could do. There's quite a bit out there of different people using it in a lot of different ways.